Welcome back to the show, guys. Pleasure to sit down with Mr. Garrett Bradford of Weatherford, Texas. He's a singer-songwriter. He's got a song on Yellowstone called This Way of Life, and truly a pleasure. I mean, he's a character. Garrett's doing what he truly loves to do. He's writing songs. He's got a side hustle to make money until he makes it in the music thing. But he's pursuing what he loves to do, and it's inspiring to see and to be around folks like that. So I hope you guys enjoy the show, and until next time, stay grateful. This episode is brought to you by Morris Stock Dogs, where champions are bred. For training tips, puppies for sale, or more information, check out morrisstockdogs.com. The Converse Cowboy Journey has given me an opportunity to sit down with some amazing performers from all walks of life, where it is my job to tease out their habits and routines so that you can apply and test in your own life. I've learned, I've grown personally, I've been enlightened, and I've been humbled. Above all, I've realized there is no destination in this life, no goal achieved, or money made that can replace the feeling of flow and the pursuit of doing what you truly love to do. With a growth mindset, I'm constantly asking questions and pursuing knowledge. The Converse Cowboy is a platform that allows me to do just that. I'm excited and eager to share their stories with you all. I'm Mike Roberts, and this is the Converse Cowboy. Brought to you by Kerry Kelley Bits and Spurs and Schaefer Outfitter. So we'll just roll into it, man, and I'm doing something a little different, so I usually have like a script or like questions that I really want to get to, and of course I wrote them all down, and I may have to glance at these notes, but I'm going to try to just freestyle this thing, and we're going to have a conversation, and just if you want to ask me anything, feel free. I'm an open book, and we'll just roll into it, man, just to get to know you a little bit, to help share your story.
We'll get started off. Who'd you vote for? No, I'm just kidding.
That's a good one, yeah. I thought, it's funny you say that, man. I thought about that this morning in the shower, like, because I never talk about religion or politics on the show. And I'm like, no shit, dude, this morning, I was like, I wonder how would I answer that if somebody asked me?
I would just say I'm not going to answer it.
Well, I think back to like an interview I saw Elvis do, and they put him on the spot, and they asked him, and he just said, no, I'm not answering it.
Yeah.
So I think
Dolly Parton has a really good quote. I think it was the first time Trump was running, and they asked her that on like something big. It was like Entertainment Tonight. She was doing a spot for some kind of show she was doing, and she was just like, no, I don't think anybody pays to hear my political opinions. And I was just like,
she was the best, dude. I watched her in interviews, and like her, not deflect, but the way she handles a pro.
Yeah, she's 100%. Been doing it forever. And she's still got it. She's still really sharp. Like, just from the videos that I've seen of hers. I would love to meet her. Imagine the wisdom she's got.
So y'all never crossed paths?
No. Oh, a couple times in my dreams.
Yeah. And I only ask that because you're doing the music thing, and you just never know who you may cross paths with. If you're in Nashville, same time she is, and
yeah. I've definitely met. There's quite a few people that I've gotten to meet, especially over like the last year or two, that I was like, dang, I can't believe I just met them. The Nashville thing for sure, because that's a little town.
It really is, right?
It's weird.
We just got back from there. We recorded some interviews.
I watched your deal with Wade there. The Wade Sapp,
yeah, Wade Sapp, yeah.
And I didn't know about him until I saw that. And I was like, man, he's cool.
Yeah,
I still haven't got to listen to his music, but I was like, I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah,
he's cool.
A great guy. And after Wade's interview, we ran down to a barbecue joint and ran into Sturgill Simpson.
Just hanging out.
Wow, great guy too.
Yeah.
By the way, I mean,
really,
you never know. Like, you meet people like that, and you never know how they are. And I kind of fear meeting people that I look up to, or they say never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
They may not live up to what you have in your head, but man, he was great, like 100%.
Remind me to tell you the Randy Travis, talk about meeting your hero story when I met Randy Travis.
Well, let's hear it. I'm reminding you now.
All right. So I was like 19, and I was playing at the something to do for the NCHA, and it was my first big gig. I had the band and stuff like that, and we were opening up. It was Randy Travis, Tanya Tucker, and Lynn Anderson. So we're up there playing, and Randy Travis is going to be there. Randy's like my hero. I mean, I looked up there, baby, I'm going to love you forever. That's like the first song I ever learned how to play. So Randy's going to be there. I'm this is before any of his, you know, controversies, we'll call them, had come about. And I see him, and he's back there in the green room. Well, the folks that are putting it on, they're kind of keeping us away from him, you know, and understandably so. I get in there just for a brief second. I introduce myself to him. He's a phenomenal guy. Get out on stage. We play for 45 minutes, and all the big acts are just doing like one song. There's a house band, and they just get up there and do their thing. But we just opened up while the people got there. And Randy Travis was coming on right after us. And I was like, man, this is going to be so cool. We were in the Roundup Inn at the where they had the rodeo up here, Will Rogers, behind the exhibit hall there with those big curtains.
Yeah.
I said, man, I'm going to step right out there to the side and just watch Randy from side stage. This is like my, you know, my
How
dream.
old were you then?
I was 18.
Okay.
So I'm sitting there, and I still got my guitar on. I unplug, and I walk over, and I'm waiting on Randy thinking he's going to come out the other way, the way that I came from. Well, I feel somebody tap me on the shoulder, and I'm kind of tall. And you always expect your heroes to be like 12 feet tall. And I turn around, and I don't see nobody. And I look down, and there he is. It's him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Mr. Travis. And there, at this time, the MC's out there. And with, you know, 27 #1 hits, he's a recording artist from, you know, the people are getting all frothed up. And he's like, boy, that was a mighty good set you did right there. I was like, oh man, thank you, you know. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I mean, I was speechless. And he's like, well, son, I need to ask you a favor. I was like, all right, yes, sir. Yes, sir, absolutely. Anything you want me. He said, I done left the house and forgot my guitar, and I was wondering if I could play that one you got. I was like, oh, God, yeah, you know. The worst part of this story is that was a guitar that I was about to buy for my bass player, and I had played it acoustic, and I said, bring it up to the show, and I'll plug it in. And if I like how it sounds plugged in, I'll buy it. This is Takamine. So as soon as he gets done, Randy Travis plays, and I'm hoping he hadn't seen it, because I know he ain't going to sell it to me. You know, I'm like, oh, he ain't going to sell it to me. And I'm watching. There's a photographer there, and she's getting pictures, and I'm like, man, this is it. I'm going to buy this guitar, get it framed, the picture of Randy playing it, never play it again. So Randy gets done. I walk back and go backstage, and there's Keith. Keith Lyles, my bass player at the time, great guy. And I said, Keith, I think I'm going to buy that guitar. He's like, oh, man. I handed it back to him because Randy comes off and hands it to me. It ain't for sale no more. So he's got that hanging at his house up there in Hazlitt with a picture of Randy Travis playing it. That was just my luck that I wouldn't be playing my guitar that day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's my story. And he was a gracious guy. He was really cool. We got to talk for a little while. Another guy that I got to meet, I think it was at that same event, that was just phenomenal as well. I love it. One of the coolest guys.
How was that? Did you get to hang out with him?
Man, I was walking back there, about to leave, and he had already played, and it was me and him. There's a long hallway behind the dressing rooms and stuff of that stage in the Roundup Inn, and I saw him all the way from the other end. It's just me and him walking at each other in this white hallway, and I'm walking, and I'm thinking, should I say anything? No, I probably shouldn't. Like, I've already got Randy Travis to play my guitar. I don't want to push my luck here, you know? So walking by, and he goes, hey, did you play earlier? And I'm like, yes, sir, I did. Nice to meet you, Garrett Bradford. And he's like, well, you did a good job, and tell me about yourself. You know, what are you doing at the time? I was fixing to go to school at Tarleton. And he just talked about that with me for like 10 minutes, just live. I mean, I can't even really remember everything he said. I was kind of just like in shock.
Yeah.
That was too much. That's probably still the two coolest people that I've ever met. And it all happened on one night 12 years ago.
That's wild.
It's crazy.
That's why they set the bar pretty high, though. Because you're 18, I would think you're just getting into this music thing.
Yeah. I thought I was pretty cool. I thought I was like, man, if it's this easy, God dang, my first gig, and Randy Travis, and I love it. It turns out it's a lot harder than that.
Yeah. Did they share any secrets with you?
You know, Randy didn't. Maybe forgetting your guitar is a secret, you know.
Yeah.
But no, Lyle. Oh, the funniest thing that I asked Lyle. Yeah, I probably shouldn't repeat this, but he didn't say I couldn't. But there's that song, the Front Porch song. Robert Earl Keen talks about me and Lyle Lover going down to school there. Well, at the time, that was me and my dad's favorite song. And I said, right before we left, I said, I got to ask you. I said, is that story in the Front Porch song true? And he goes, hell no. He said, and we went to school at the same time down there, and we were buddies, but Robert just always partying and getting drunk, and I was past all that then. So, but I thought that was so funny. I was like, he was like, I love Robert, but no, it wasn't quite like that. He kind of, you know how the old timers would be like, it was kind of like that,
right,
like you heard, but it wasn't quite like that.
Right.
But I ain't gonna tell you the rest. You just gonna have to wonder.
So you said that was at the NCHA.
Yeah.
What was that, like at a Futurity?
That would have been at the celebrity cutting.
Oh, okay.
And at the Futurity, yeah.
Right on.
So I grew up around that. My dad did a lot of horse sales for the NCHA, Western Bloodstock. We also raised bucking bulls, broncs, and stuff like that growing up. So I was around that a lot, like Paul Hansma, Matt Gaines. I know two guys you've had on the show are good friends. I was talking to Paul a few days ago. He came by the house, so I love those guys. They're like family to me.
Great guys.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I know them no further than the show, and then of course their reputation. But those are two guys I was really glad to have on the show, just to be able to pick their brain for an hour.
They're both very stoic too. I don't know if you got that. Like they're thinking guys, you know. I think all good horse trainers are to some extent.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm running through the Rolodex right now of all of them that I've sat down with, and they have to be in a way, I would think, to be able to communicate with an animal that cannot speak.
Right.
And they speak their own language. They don't speak words, you know. So yeah, I think you have to be able to tap into that.
Yeah, I would think so. Because most of the really good ones you meet are like Paul and Matt. You can tell their brain's going, but like they don't say. I don't know. Paul does talk a lot. I guess it's hard to say because I know Paul so well and he's so awesome. Like we're like family, and Matt the same way. But yeah, they're those guys that you can tell they're always thinking. They're smart guys.
So you grew up cutting?
Yeah, a little bit. I didn't really like it that much.
Why is that?
Oh, I started playing guitar, man. I thought that was a lot cooler. I didn't have to get up as early.
Yeah, shit, dude. No shit, man. Those guys, like I say it all the time, nobody sees. We see them on the front of the magazines, and that all looks fun, and the money that they win. But dude, the hours they put in, I don't know there's another field out there that puts in more hours than those guys.
No, not those, getting up at 3 a.m. I mean, I remember when Paul, at the time, he was training out at Bar H, we'd go out there and I was a kid. I mean, they'd be up at, 3 a.m., to work those horses outside before it got hot, just going through them. Yeah. And it's it's not a thankless job, but, those moments that they win, for every moment like that, there's 300 mornings of getting up at 4 in the morning. So I have a lot of respect for those guys, and being exposed to that definitely shaped me, and I love it. I think the older I get, the more I want to get into it. Like I've thought about showing and stuff. Yeah. But as a kid, it just wasn't. I was around it too much. Yeah. I don't know. Did you ever get it like when you're around something a lot when you're young, you want to do something different? Yeah. 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 For me, I got into it later in life, so I didn't start riding horses till I was about 30, and hit the ground running. Yeah. Like got addicted and still addicted. Yeah. But yeah, you hear about those people that, and it's crazy to see sometimes, like those people that are really good at something, but they get burnt out on it, whether their parents pushed them too hard or maybe they push themselves too hard, and then they shift gears and they may go do something else. Right. It makes sense. Because, you see that a lot with music, too. Like, I've been doing it, for a while. I've been, around. And I've seen people that I thought were incredibly talented that got burnt out. And they're done now. They haven't reached their full potential or anything. Right. But they've had enough. So I think that's one of the key things, that I always try to do is have enough real life in my life to where I never get burned out. Yeah. That's something that I consciously do. I avoid burnout, so. I definitely want to get into that because there is a balance, right? The balance of pushing yourself as far as you can, and then the polarity to that is being able to step away and let go. Right. And what I've learned in recent years is I once deemed that as non-productive time, but really I'm starting to learn that it is productive. Mm-hmm. To step away from something, it actually is productive use of my time. For sure. Because, being around it, being so closely associated, for me, if I get up, there's guys that'll tell you that are super successful songwriters. I get up and I write for 8 hours a day. Man, I got no interest in doing that. That sounds horrible to me. Mm-hmm. I've never written any of my, what I consider my best songs by waking up and saying, I'm going to write a song today. You know, usually I do a lot of tree work and land clearing and stuff when I'm not doing music, and I've done that for 10 years, and most of my good songs come to me doing that. You know, with the earplugs in, the chainsaw running, like I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah,
so I think
it's like a form of meditation in a way.
It is. Because you're not working your brain, you're not taxing your brain. You know, you might be physically tired, but I did try selling cars for about 3 months, and I had to quit because I'd be so tired mentally at the end of the day, I wouldn't want to play guitar or write. So I think there's a balance. Doing manual labor is good if you're trying to be like a creative, I think, because it doesn't take any of that out of you.
Yeah.
You don't use any of that energy.
Yeah. I was reading a book by Ryan Holiday called Stillness, and in there he's got a story about Winston Churchill, and he talks about one of the things he would do is bricklaying, just because it was mindless. Yeah, and he enjoyed doing it and like just let his mind go.
Yeah, Churchill is really an incredible guy. I love history, man. That's what I wanted to kind of do growing up. I wanted to be like a historian, but
what happened?
There's just not enough money in that, so I decided to become a semi-pro country singer and be even broker. No, I don't know. I just didn't want to be like a teacher or anything. Right. But I think once I got bit with the music bug, once I started figuring out people would pay me to play songs, that's all I wanted. I was like, oh, well, I ain't doing nothing else than this, you know? When
did that come to you? So you mentioned like the cutting horse thing got replaced by the guitar. So when did that get introduced, and then when did you realize, like, shit, man, maybe I'm good enough to do this thing full time?
I was like 12. A guy named Dan Roberts, who wrote like Beaches of Cheyenne for Garth, and he's had a bunch of other really awesome songs. He moved here, and his son JD is my age, my best friend now, and they moved here from Nashville. And his mother and my mother started going to the same Bible study, so I met them, went over there, and being around Dan, and I was like, I didn't really know anything about songwriting because nobody in my family did it. And I didn't even know it was a thing, you know, and he was explaining to me what he did, and I'm like, well, shoot, that sounds awesome. So he said, well, you got to learn how to play guitar and do this, that, and the other. So I just started asking what I needed to do to be a songwriter and started doing it. And then I did have, I think I did have a knack for it. I don't have very many knacks for very many things, you know, like I was never super athletic or anything, but as soon as I started doing that, I was like, oh, I'm actually like a natural at this. Some would say, some people might think I suck. So it came easy to you, though? But it came easy. It was never a struggle like, oh, I need to write a song. It was just like, pick it up and write one. Yeah. Especially at the beginning. And then it's a little bit harder the further on you get because you've written about a lot of that stuff already. Is it because the expectation gets higher for yourself? For sure. Yeah, like my expectation is way higher for myself now. Right now, my expectation when I start writing a song is for it to be the best song that's ever written. I truly believe that. A lot of people, won't say that, but that's my goal at it. I love it so much. It's such a huge part of me that, like, I want to be, not for the sake of ego necessarily. I'm not pursuing it for that reason, but, like, being respected amongst my peers and just knowing for myself that I'm doing it at the highest level I can. Yeah. And hopefully the highest level. I would love to be, 50 years from now for somebody to sit around in the truck and argue about who was better, Garrett Bradford or Merle Haggard, but I got a lot of work to do. That's an ambitious goal, but I think that is how you continue to level up, because I think what limits us as humans is our own expectations of ourselves. The people that say, oh, I can never be as good as Merle, most likely you're never going to be as good as Merle. If you say that, you won't be. Mm-hmm. And if you come at it with that, like a lot of people come at the songwriting thing with almost too much reverence for other people's material and a lack of respect for their own. Mm. And, they want to, there's something to be said for being around people that you look up to and soaking up what they say, but I'm not convinced, what he says may not be right for you. So I love Sturgill Simpson. We were just talking about him a second ago. Like I might go to Sturgill Simpson and ask him for advice. I'm sure it will be good and true, but just because something worked for him doesn't mean it's going to work for me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of the, you got to really have a belief in what you're doing, and you got to pursue it and try not to, I believe in not letting outside influences, even others, you know, even people you look up to, getting too much in your head, because it'll drive you crazy. And then you start chasing other sounds and you won't ever come up with nothing original yourself.
Well, then it comes back to like a balance of like listening and letting those people lift you up and let you level up, but at the same time stay true to you and to your intentions. And the only way you can do that is to really know what is my intention. Why am I doing this?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's something that I still think about, and I think that changes, you know, throughout life, or it should.
Absolutely, I agree.
I mean, at first, when I first started playing, it was like, man, I just want to get a gig, and, you know, maybe like one of these girls I like will show up from high school, and then they'll think it's cool. That was as far as I thought. Yeah. And then after I did that for a while, so yeah, the bar keeps getting set higher. Or it should.
As it should.
Yeah, yeah, if you don't want to stagnate. So most of my, you know, battles as far as, I'm my own biggest critic. So, you know, I'll write one and I'm like, man, this is good, but it's not great. But I'm going to have to settle with good until I get to great. Yeah.
I always ask, like, what is it that separates those greats from just the goods, the people we may never hear about? And I was watching an interview that Oprah did with Michael Jackson. And, I mean, one of the greatest pop stars, if not the best ever. Like, and his answer was, like, he's never satisfied.
Right.
Which I think there is, like, a diminishing rate of return. Like, that does affect mental health. If, like, you're never satisfied, never grateful for where you're at. But at the same time, like, that's what allowed him to get to where he was, you know? Yeah. So I think, like, I didn't take, like, ego. I didn't think he was egotistical in what he said, but I think ego can play good and bad. It's like, can be for our benefit, like what drives us, what makes us do good, and then also it can also be what hinders us in a way. Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. And you have to be cognizant of it, you know, and like, you know, we all have an ego, you know, whether some have more than others, you know. I certainly don't have the least. I mean, I've got a fair amount of it myself, but then I think being able to acknowledge it and realize, all right, this is my ego talking to me and saying that I want to be headlining this deal. Well, I don't need to listen to it because that's a silly thing to listen to it about. But if my ego is telling me you can be better, you know, you can work harder, then I'll listen to it.
Summer Dean was just on the show a little bit ago, and she always says, like, it expands your awareness to your ego if you give it a name.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I never thought about that. I need to name mine. Yeah. I don't know what mine will be.
Because you're right, we all have one.
Mine's outrageous. Mine will be like Ric Flair, Macho Man Randy Savage coming off the top rope to smack me down all the time. No, but... And I mean, a lot of it is... a lot of the stuff that, like, you have to have security in what you're doing. You got to believe in it. You got to believe in yourself. You got to have enough confidence. I think that's one of the signs of greatness. I mean, if you ever go back and look at the guys I look up to, Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, Letty Frizzell, these kind of guys, and you actually, like, watch them talk and watch them give interviews and stuff, they're not like, no, they believe in themselves, just like anybody should. Yeah. And that's one thing that I've noticed. Because, like, a lot of artists that I'm around, they almost think that it's bad to have belief in themselves.
What is that, you think?
I don't know. I think there's just like a culture of fake humility. I mean, I'll call it what it is, because none of us would be doing it if we really thought we sucked. Who in the hell is going to get up on stage in front of a bunch of people and play them a song they thought sucked? Yeah. Nobody. But then if you ask them, they'll be like, oh, no, it's not that good, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. You know, I think it's like the social convention of being respectful. Sure. And that makes sense, you know, and obviously you don't want to be, like, arrogant or brash, but you can be confident in what you're doing and also know where you're sitting and know that you got work to do. Or I don't see those as being mutually exclusive, you know. I think you can have confidence in yourself and you can also be humble. I mean, I'm reminded every day of what I'm not good at, you know. Like, when I get on stage and I'm playing one of my songs, I feel great, but, like, most of the time I'm not, I'm like anybody else, you know. I'm not real good at this or I'm not real good at that. Yesterday I was doing some carpentry. I suck at carpentry, you know.
Yeah.
So you gotta know what you can do and what you can't do, and play to your strengths, I think. And I don't know. I just
Humble confidence, man. I journal a lot about that and have recently. Like that's, I think, where it is for me. Like the humble confidence and acknowledging the negative chatter that we all have as humans by default. Most of the time, like it just creeps in, and to be able to like reframe that, I kind of use it as a trigger, like to recalibrate to better thoughts.
Right.
Because that is within my control, you know?
Yeah, our thoughts are in our control. I mean, that's something that I say for sure is, you know, we choose which thoughts. I've always envisioned thoughts being like you're standing on the edge of a river, it's just flooded and there's logs and debris floating down. Like when a thought pops into your head, it's like a log coming into sight. And do you want to swim out there and get on that? Do you want to ride that thought? Or do you want to let it pass and wait for a good one to come around and ride it? Because we can choose what we give our time to, or what we give our emotion to. So that's something that I try to do a lot, you know, acknowledge, like you're saying, acknowledge the thought. Okay, I'm not happy about this, but I'm not going to go all the way down that and say, oh, I'm a failure, I suck, you know. It's like, I'm not happy about this, what can I do to change it? Is there anything I can do?
Right.
And, you know, there's a lot of situations in life where, hey, you know, you get in something and you just got to deal with it. And if there's not anything you can do, you just take it on the chin and push through it.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you got.
I was just going to say, like, most of the shit that happens in life we can't control, but what we can control is how we react to it, our perception of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've had to, you know, deal with that like anybody else. I mean, there was times in my life, a few years there, that I didn't know what, you know, my future would be, or whether I would even be able to get out and play music and things like that. I was in a really bad car wreck in 2014. Me and my best friend, Colt Bruce, I was driving. We'd been at a bar, we left, and I wrecked, hit a tree, and he was killed. And obviously I got into legal trouble for that, and, you know, got put away for a little bit. But that's when I really had to get like a grasp on my thoughts. Because it was there's certain points in life where you're like, well, okay, well, this is either gonna like literally destroy me and I'm gonna eat a pistol, or I'm gonna have to figure out how to get over it. And, you know, things like that teach you that, your relation with your thoughts and how you can, I mean, it's like you were saying, you know, you can't let them get the best of you. And I disassociate from my thoughts, because like if I have a thought, I don't necessarily identify with that. You know, thoughts pop into our heads all day. I mean, think about how much weird stuff you think about, like, oh, I wonder if, what if this road shut down? Well, we don't identify with those thoughts. Yeah. Like, we don't take them down to our core. But these other thoughts we have, like, oh, you should, you know, you're not good enough, things like that. A lot of people take those and take them to heart and live with those.
And that becomes their reality, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of... It's a dangerous game to play, you know. And honestly, I think introspection in and of itself, man, if you spend too much time staring back into yourself, you're gonna go crazy. You know, there's a fine line.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the answers. Like, I can look within myself for the answers. If I had the answers, I wouldn't have to look.
Right.
So maybe some of the answers are come from introspection, but a lot of them, I think, just come from wisdom of wiser people and just experience. You just keep kicking through it, see how it plays out.
Yeah. I'm going to circle back. I'm curious to know, like, what were some of the practices? How did you climb out of that dark time?
Well, I mean, being locked up made it way easier, because I had to be 100% sober. I had to live with that, and it intensified the pain in the short run. But when a lot of people run into things like that nowadays, which is something that was, I mean, to this day, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and I still wrestle with that big time. But, man, I just, my faith, number one, I mean, I'm a Christian. My faith in Jesus Christ, my faith in God allowed me to, through prayer and supplication, I was able to reach some level of healing. And I just think not distracting yourself from it and dealing with things. Nowadays, that's what most, including myself, right? Like, that's why I brought up the fact that I was, like, you know, I didn't have a phone. I didn't have, you know, I couldn't go to the bar. I didn't have a friend to text or somebody to call and distract me or a date to go on with the girls. So you're just confronted with all that pain up front and grief and guilt and things like that, and you sort through them the best you know how at the time. And the more that you put that off, like I believe that anything that happens, you know, there's a certain amount of grief that's going to happen, or a certain amount of pain that's going to happen, you know, and you can prolong it and you can drag it out, or you can just get through it and handle it correctly. And I didn't do that by my own choice. I was forced to kind of handle it correctly, so to speak, to not turn to drugs, to alcohol, to, you know, vices as a distraction. Mm-hmm. So I can't take credit for that, but I learned that, you know, and I would probably never learn that if it hadn't been. So I'm thankful for that, at least, you know, that part where I had to, you know, just face what I'd done and deal with it. Mm-hmm. And get past it, you know. And another part about that too is everybody wants to, you know, that why did this happen? What's the answer? And I don't have any. I just quit asking that question, because if I kept asking, I was going to kill myself. Mm-hmm. Bottom line. So if I kept asking myself, how should I feel about this? So yeah, it was a horrible thing. It was a horrible mistake that I made. It's the worst mistake I ever made in my life. And, you know, it happened. So where do I go from here? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the main thing that I learned through that. If that makes any sense. No, it's kind of convoluted.
Well, it does. No, it makes a lot of sense. I'm curious, like, how long were you?
4 months.
4 months.
Yeah, 4 months, and I was on house arrest for 6 months after that. Which I always joke around and say, man, house arrest was almost worse than being in jail, because you can see all the things that you're not getting to do. Mm. Yeah. I mean, it's not, but I kind of joke around. But, you know, I mean, I wrote a lot of songs. I have a book. I actually just found it the other day that I brought home with me that has, I think I counted, there's 71 songs in there.
So that's what you went to, you were writing, were you reading, like, books?
I just read the Bible. There? I mean, that's all I had. So I just read the Bible and write a lot. You know, I write a lot of letters, you know, and just...
Letters to other people, or letters?
Letters to other people. Yeah, I had a lot of pen pals there. Everybody wants to write you whenever, I don't know. It's like a Nicholas Sparks novel. They're like, oh, let's get in the middle of the drama. But yeah, I had no shortage of pen pals. It was cool. So I'm super, you know, thankful that I have a lot of people who have always kind of been there to help me keep my chin up. Yeah. And I mean, it sucked, but I don't know, man. Like, there's so many people walking around that have dealt with scenarios like that and stuff that's way worse. And that's one of the things that, like, being locked up and being around these guys and hearing their stories made me realize how fortunate I was. Mm-hmm. And how fortunate I was that I was fixing to get out of there in a few months, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think nowadays, like, it's really easy to focus on, like, trauma and pain and try to extrapolate psychological suppositions from that and all this stuff. But I mean, the bottom line is, man, you got to do it the way, you know, for some people, it takes a ton of therapy and counseling. There's a huge benefit of that. And some people, that makes it worse. Mm-hmm. I have a really good friend, I'm not going to mention him by name, but he lost his father and in a pretty traumatic deal. And me and him were talking about that. And we both been to therapy. And I'm like, man, I'm going to tell you right now, like, I went 3 or 4 times and it about drove me crazy. I mean, it did. Like, I was good until I went there. And then it's like, well, let's re-expose all this pain. And I'm like, I think I'm good. Not that I never think about it or anything. I think about it all the time, but I have a healthy relationship with that, mm-hmm. with that memory, and that it doesn't destroy me. Right. So I try to leave it at that, and just live my life. My buddy Colt Bruce, I mean, he was phenomenal, and I just try to live my life in a way that would honor him. And a huge part of that for me has been pursuing this. When I got out, and I was like, and that was all in the past behind me, and I had to make a decision. Do I really want to do this? Do I want to put myself out there in front of people? And I did. And the way I kind of viewed it was like, man, it wouldn't be right to let to let that go to waste, you know, to let my passion go to waste because my buddy's not here anymore.
Right.
You know, so if anything, I should take that and let it fuel me to pursue my dreams, just like we had talked about, like he wanted me to do.
Right. Right. I'm going to shift gears a little bit on you. You have a quote, and you say, "I don't want to do anything else but write songs and play music." And so I'll use that as like a segue into your songwriting. And I'm just hyper curious by nature, but and each person's a little different in their songwriting process, but there's a lot of similarities too. So can you set the stage for yours? Like, how are you writing? Is it early mornings, late nights?
It's all times. That's a hard, you know, and this is what everybody says, I think, that does this, but it's a hard question to answer because, you know, at first it was a very intentional process. Like when I first started, when I was very young, I'm going to write a song today, you know, and I know these 3 chords, so it's going to be in this key. And you know, that went on for a while, but I think to me, mornings are a good time. Mornings are always a good time just because you're at your prime. Then you wake up, you know, drink some coffee, whatever you do. And it's a great time to finish songs. If I'm trying to, like, really force it, like, say I've got a good song idea and I'm like, man, I got to finish that today. If I was going to force myself to finish the song, I would wake up in the morning and go straight to it. But I don't usually do that. A lot of times I just kind of pop in my head and I write them in my head, like when I'm working, and I can hear the music and everything.
How is that though? Like when those ideas come to you and you're in the middle of doing something, like do you
I'll just
get
put
your
the
phone
chainsaw
out
down and pull out my phone?
and
I like writing. I like most of the time if I set out to write a song, which I do a lot. Like I don't want to make it sound like that every song I've ever written has just popped in my head when I was trimming trees or cutting down trees. But I'll just pull out I like to write on paper. In fact, I can't stand people that write on laptops. I'm just going to be honest with you. Some of my favorite people in the world write on laptops, but I don't know. It just kills the whole vibe to me. Like, turn it off, pull the cord out, pull out a piece of paper. And I've done it before. Like, obviously, I type stuff on my phone, but yeah, there's just something about putting pen to paper. And actually, the other day, I know you write some songs too. My buddy Last Night Fighter, we were talking about. So... Who's an awesome guy. Check him out, Last Night Fighter.
He's an interesting character.
He's interesting is a great word for old knife. But no, he's awesome. But hell, I forgot what I was even talking about. Oh, whiteboard. So the other day I'm walking through Walmart, and one of the things that you're doing, you're always writing songs and you're crossing out lines, and then you're rewriting them, and by the time you get done, it's a mess. Mm-hmm. I'm walking through Walmart. They got these whiteboards out there by the office supply section. They're like $8, and they're like, probably 18 by 24 inches. I'm like, hell, I ought to just get that and start writing my songs on that. So that's a new experiment.
Really?
2 weeks now I've had the whiteboard. If you just come over and write a song at the house, I pull out the whiteboard. Got a little eraser on the end of the pen, so if there's a line I want to scratch out, we want to replace it. Yeah. And then when we're done, I write it big, so if we want to record a demo of that song, we just set it up, and there's the words. You're not trying to read off the
Yeah, man. That's awesome.
I know that sounds silly, but like, it's funny because everybody I've written with since I got there, they're like, dang, that's a great... I'm like, man, it just kind of dawned on me. I was walking through Walmart, and I was like, hey, I ought to get one of them whiteboards.
It's one of those ideas that comes out of the sky.
Yeah, it's one of those.
I didn't do that justice for the Knife Fighter. He's become a good friend, and I need to say more than he's just an interesting character. I think he's lyrically a genius, like when it comes to writing and just the way he articulates his words and sentences. And I know he's read a lot of poetry from a young age. And so again, he's been a very good friend. He is gracious enough to let us use his music for the show. And I spent a lot of time with him out at the Chicken and Thought Farm.
At the Chicken and Thought Farm, the Lone Hand Ranch out there.
The Lone Hand Ranch. So
I love that guy. I was out there, I guess about 2 days ago. We worked together a lot. And he inspires me, I struggle with like the day-to-day of being, I need to, copyright this term, semi-professional country singer. Semi-professional country singer, because I'm like, what do I do in my day-to-day? And me and him have talked a lot about that. We have a lot in common, and just how we wake up and pursue that with yourself being your sole source of motivation. For him, he's now got a lovely wife and a beautiful little baby that they just had. But for me, as being like a single guy, it's even harder because sometimes it feels like my feet ain't to the fire. I'm like, man, you know, I had a song on Yellowstone on season 3, and you know, I paid really good, and I'm out here, I'm working, and so not that I'm rich, but like I don't need that much money to live, man. Like a couple grand a month, I've been living high on the hog. So right. I had to almost like impose that. I almost had to act like I have a wife and a kids back. They're like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
It's funny, I've never told you, but like I always act like, man, what if I had a wife right now? What would she be saying?
Yeah.
She'd probably be saying you need to quit and get a job. But
no, man, I've had those same thoughts, Garrett. It's like when I first started, so I'm a real estate investor, but back when I was grinding it out in my early 20s, like I had that mentality. I was doing the things, making it happen, and like to get back to that mindset is something I'm constantly seeking, you know, because and I'll only speak for me, but like I get to this level and it's like I kind of take my foot off the accelerator a little bit, like the accountability's not there. And I did a trip down to Terlingua where I went down there for 2 weeks. I only brought $50 and I didn't have any place to stay or anything, just so I could mentally get back to that grind mentality.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I put myself in this situation.
I love that.
Yeah, and so I did. Like it allowed me to experience that again. So it's interesting to hear you say that, and I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah, you have to impose those. I don't know, because I ran into the same thing. Like for me, so as to date, like the song that I had on Yellowstone is on season 3, episode 9, and that.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. How did that come about?
Great story. So I get called. There's a guy that moved in over here down the road from us. He needs some trees trimmed, needs some trees cut down. And make no mistake, in Weatherford, Texas, I'm known as a tree trimmer. I'm not known as a country singer. So, I mean, naturally so, because 6 days a week, that's what I'm doing, right? So, I go over there, and at the time I was living down in Brock, and I didn't have no TV. But a couple of my friends had told me about this Yellowstone. Have you seen Yellowstone? And this, I guess, would have been right after season 1. I said, oh, no, I ain't seen it. I ain't got a TV, you know, I ain't seen it. So I meet him, and he's like, yeah, I'm in the film business. Taylor Sheridan is his name, and it's become a great friend of mine. And we just hit it off. We became buddies, and I don't really view myself as, it's funny because even though it's all I want to do, I still kind of view myself as like Garrett, the guy that comes and cuts down your trees, or comes, you know, like I don't think of myself as some songwriter. Songwriter. I'm not living that life. I live a normal life. So I never even told him I played music. I mean, it never even dawned on me, honestly. So he has me come over to his house like 2 or 3 times, and eventually somebody comes over, and I can't remember who it was, and I'm like, what you got this country singer doing over here? He's like, you sing? I said, yeah. And he's like, damn, you're the only singer I've ever met that ain't told me they sang. I was like, oh, you know, I don't know. You have to see. Maybe I suck. And pulled out a guitar and played for some people. And we became buddies. And, I mean, I guess a year later, I never asked him about getting a song of mine on the show, but we were sitting on his porch, and he was talking to me about, we just kind of had this long discussion about the Western way of life and how a lot of people think it's dying and that it ain't dead. And, you know, there's still a lot of young people out there like me and like a lot of people who are watching this like you who believe in it. And I went home, I wrote a song about it, and I sent it to him. Well, Taylor's a super busy guy. So texting Taylor's a terrible idea. So I texted to him, and I don't hear anything back. So like a month later, I'm like, I'm like, dang, he didn't even listen to that. So I just sent it to him again. I think I had seen him like 2 times in the interim and never asked him about it. And I was like, sending to you again. And he listens to it, calls me. He's like, man, oh my gosh, we got to use that on the show. And I'm like, really? It was a demo I recorded in my barn.
No,
my little studio I was telling you about. Yeah, so I just recorded in my barn. And Taylor's the guy that got me inspired to start recording music. He was like, man, you need to do all this on your own. You know, like that's the way the world's going. You need to be able to handle this on your own. I said, okay, you know, he's successful. I'm going to listen to him. And I started learning to record, which has become like my secondary passion. Songwriting and singing kind of the first, and recording, you know, would be probably the third. But anyways, yeah, it was awesome. And I said, well, let me get in the studio and like record a good version of it. This is just I just set the mic up and sat there and played it, you know. I just wanted you to hear it because we're buddies. And he was like, no, dude, that's it. It's raw. It's real. I like it. Send it to Andrea Von Forster. She runs Firestarter Music. So all you people, all my buddies who are asking me how to get their song on Yellowstone, look up Firestarter Music, because I don't get to make those choices, or the whole Yellowstone would be a Garrett Bradford soundtrack. Believe it or not, I don't get to make those choices. So I sent it to her, and I was like, and they used it the next week. They had an opening.
No kidding.
And it was on season 3, episode 9. I was sitting there with my god sister and a couple of friends, and we were watching it. And I knew I thought it was gonna be in like the background on a radio as a car drove by or something. And they get done with the opening scene, and then they do the intro. They have an opening scene intro, which is the Yellowstone official intro they do every time. And then it flicks to a montage scene of the ranch, and they played a minute and a half of my song. And I remember I kept thinking, when are they going to stop it? And there's no dialogue over it. I'm like, man, when are they going to stop it? When are they going to stop? Now, it was the craziest feeling ever, because I never thought that would ever happen to me.
Wow, man.
And I was I think it's probably the only time in my life that I've ever teared up out of like joy. And I just remember thinking, man, who'd have ever thought it, like that this would happen the way it happened. And the next day, I guess it was 2 days later, I'll never forget, I was at work, and we were on a job down in Granbury, and I'm running the chainsaw, my phone starts ringing. And by this time, like, of course, like, I have been getting emails, and like people have heard the song. I got a notification from my distributor that's like, hey, your song was Shazammed 40,000 times last night. And I'm like, how many? It's like 2 of my hometowns. But I keep getting this call, and I answer, and they're like, dude, they're playing your song on XM radio right now. And I said, oh, no, you're confused. I know how that works. You know, they're not playing my song on XM. And I didn't have XM, just like I didn't have TV. So after about the 3rd person told me, they're like, dude, they're playing your song on the highway right now on XM. And it was just, it blew my mind, you know, that this song that I recorded 2 weeks before, right? I wrote it and recorded it. To me, that's not even a finished song. You know, as I listen back to that, like, I would love to, you know, that song would have changed a little bit, some of the phrasing, but it doesn't matter because people liked it.
Right.
So it was a shocker to me. I mean, to roll one off that quick, and because of the Yellowstone placement, it gets the attention that people identify with it. So it changed my perspective on everything. And ever since that moment, man, I don't care about nothing else except writing songs, recording them in the barn, and putting them out. I've got a whole new album that I'm going to put out that I did not record in the barn. I recorded it with Corby Schaub down at the Zone. He produced Parker McCollum's first record. He's one of my greatest friends. And but that was already in the works. And since then, I just want to keep like recording stuff myself and putting it out, because why not, you know?
Yeah.
I'd have to be a fool not to. That's the best thing that's worked for me. So if I don't pursue that, then I'm crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Man, that is awesome. And I've got so many questions. Like, I want to ask so many follow-up questions to that. Do you follow that trajectory, and are you trying, like, does that change your songwriting in any way?
It just makes it more real, man. I mean, that song I wrote for Yellowstone was probably the realest song I ever wrote, you know? It was just straight from the heart, because I was literally writing that song. I know people will be watching this and be like, oh, Garrett was trying to get... No, I wasn't trying to get that song on the show. Taylor Sheridan is my friend. We had talked about something, and I was sending him just a super heartfelt song based off a conversation we had.
Yeah.
I had no pretenses that any of that would get on the show. It had never been discussed. And I think what it made me realize is like, oh, this stuff me and my buddies like, other people like too.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like these songs that, you know, now that we've become friends, I might send you and be like, oh, this is kind of an offbeat song, but like you'll dig it. Well, there's a lot of other us's out there.
Yeah.
So.
That's when I think you win this game of life. When you do the thing that you love to do, and then other people value it enough to pay you for it. This game that we live as humans, like, that's a win in my book.
Right.
You know, versus trying to say, okay, this is what people value, and I'm going to try to align with that. You see it every day, and that's the social conditioning that we live in, the society we live in. Go to school, get a good job that pays good, and all of the things. And I think that is why, again, my little opinion, that's why I think there's so many unhappy people going to work 9 to 5, hating their job.
Right.
You know.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know. Is that kind of the mentality you took to the podcast? Like, because you're doing a unique thing, you know. I mean, you're bringing in, you know, Matt Gaines and musicians, you know, Culture Wall and Matt Gaines. Like, you know, I mean, there's similarities, but I love what you're doing here because it's like, oh, I'm going to do what I'm interested in. And then you realize, oh, other people are interested in this stuff too.
Exactly. Yeah. You just said it.
Yeah.
It started out as like a scratch my own itch kind of thing. And I ride with James, you know, James Payne.
Yeah.
So I got horses in training with James, and he was my second interview when I started the show, and he's like, man, why did you start the show? And this is about a year after I, you know, met him. And I was like, well, tell me this, like, if I called you and I wanted to ask you questions, would you have sat down with me for an hour and answered every question that I had for you? And he's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And so it's a platform, selfishly, like, to scratch my own itch, but like you said, there are other people that are getting value from it or find interest in it. So,
like, I don't know if you've had this happen. I would presume that you have. But, so, like, I was up in Nashville a month or two ago, and I played at this thing called Backstage Nashville. It's every Saturday in Nashville at 3rd and Lindsley. Go to it. It's like $20 a ticket. It's incredible. Some of the best songwriters ever. Because my song was on Yellowstone, I was able to get, like, a kind of an opening spot and get up and play one song on this deal. So I get done. And afterwards, after all the other people play, we go out and meet all the people and that were there, and it's always sold out. It's just incredible, man. Like, they all listen. You could hear a pin drop in that place whenever you start playing your song, and that's a surreal feeling too. Like, once you get that, like, you don't ever. That's it. There ain't a drug. Well, I ain't done all the drugs, but there ain't a drug I've done that's like that. But and this state trooper came up to me. I didn't know at the time. His name was Gabe. He's from Minnesota. And he gave me this, like, challenge coin. I still have it at the house. I actually have it in a shadow box. And, you know, I take it with a lot of reverence. He's like, man, we listened to that song, This Way of Life, which is, you can listen to it if you go look on the internet. That's the one that was on Yellowstone. It's about, and he had come there just to see me. They were in town, and he saw that I was going to, and it just blew my mind, man. And he was like, man, we listen to this song all the time, me and the other state troopers, and, like, we appreciate what you're doing, and we want to, and it gives me, like, whatever. I got goosebumps just thinking about it now, because I'm like, dude, I'm just a guy out here writing songs, and
right.
But the fact that he took that much meaning from it to give me one of his awards, that redefined why I did this, because I had never had that experience before, where a man like that came up to me and was like, we get value out of what you're doing. So to me, it's weird now, because it kind of threw me for a loop, because I was like, man, what I'm doing is more about Gabe. He's always going to be that avatar in my mind of the person who's out there that I don't know. Like, how many of those guys are out there? And the fact that he gets value from, so at first, yeah, songwriting was, I'm scratching my own itch. You know, I want, you know, girls to think I'm cool or something like that. But it's funny, because the more I've done it, I'm like, man, like, when you start, and same thing with your podcast, when somebody comes to you and like, man, that was a really impactful interview you did, you're like, really? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you...
You know, it does. It does happen. And it is. It's very surreal, you know, that somebody can listen to, like, either something I say or a guest that I have on, and that I'm able to provide this platform that they can listen to and improve their life in some way. You know, and so Zig Ziglar has a quote. He says, if you can help enough other people get what they want, you can have anything you want. And so it's so true. And that's not why I do it. I don't do it to get anything, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to get anything in return out of it, but selfishly I do, because that fills my tank, being able to provide value to other people. That makes sense.
That's what it should be about. I mean, me and Knife talked about that last Knife Fighter again, who we were talking about, our mutual friend. We talk about that a lot. Like, man, these are for the listener. And he's been a really good, you know, I've always kind of had that thought rolling around in my head, never really been able to grasp it. But in our conversations, he's like, man, these songs mean what the person listening to them think they mean.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's one of the reasons, like, if you ever go watch me play live, I do a lot of acoustic shows. I'll play mostly original music, but I won't be like, this song is about a girl that I dated from X, Y, and Z on this date, and she... No, you take it how you want it.
Yeah.
And if you want to ask me the story about it afterwards, come up and ask me. But it ain't about us. And the same thing, it's no different than from what you're doing. And I know you also are writing songs too, but with your podcast...
Very poorly. Trying.
Getting there.
Trying, yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm going to be honest with you. So I was at Knife Fighter's house a couple days ago, and he played me one that you sent him, and I thought it was pretty good. I was pretty impressed.
That's very kind of you.
And I was like, well, what's this guy's deal, you know? And I was like, he said he writes some songs, and I was like, he said, yeah, he had nothing but like super high praise for you.
Yeah.
And he was like, listen to this. He wrote this the other day. It was good. I'm like, dude, that's good. So, I like that.
I've enjoyed the process of it, right? And it goes back to like finding that grind mentality or like leaning into that uncomfortability, because that is very uncomfortable for me to write that and then put it out into the Instagram land and let people see that, you know, so.
Well, I mean, I think, it's very admirable to me, like somebody that, I want to say your age, I don't know how old you are. I assume we're the same age. Okay, so I'm 30. But I'm fortunate enough to have been exposed to this really young, to where I almost view the world through the lens of me being a songwriter, because I've thought of myself as that since I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And it's just like anything else. When I try to learn something now, it's so hard, you know? I mean, and I love seeing people who come into songwriting like later in life and that really delve into it, because you kind of almost have a whole different perspective, you know? Whereas I've been viewing the whole world through the lens of a songwriter my whole life, and you've been viewing the whole world as just a guy.
Yeah.
And that's who we're writing songs for. Like, I don't give a damn what so-and-so thinks about my song. I mean, at the end of the day, like, we'll even say, like, I love Randy Travis, one of my heroes. There's one Randy Travis in the world. I'm not writing songs for Randy Travis to like. He wasn't writing. You write songs not for other musicians. You write them for the people. So your experiences through life, and that's one of the reasons why I try to always keep one foot firmly planted in reality, whether it's me going out and working and sweating and stuff like that, is, hey, you know, the people who are listening to this music, that's what they're doing. So if I want to be able to relate to them, I got to be living a life that's somewhat similar to theirs.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way I look at it, and that's why I think it's so cool when people get into songwriting later, because they come to the craft with all of these experiences that haven't been tainted by their, you know, belief in themselves as a songwriter. Because one of the things I have to find is, like, anytime something happens, I'm like, oh, I guess I should write a song about that because I'm a songwriter. That's a little too much pressure. Just take it easy. So I think it's super cool, like, hearing that there's, I don't know, like your deal, me and Knife are talking about it, that like you found an interest in it, and that you had the courage to pursue it at your, you know, you didn't start off doing this and this is all you've ever known.
Yeah.
You stepped out on a limb and just started doing it. And I think that's cool, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's been fun to sit down with folks like you and other folks that come on the show, and to be able to pick y'all's brain about songwriting. And then
don't pick mine. I don't have anything good. I was trying to pick yours.
But then to be able to study it and listen to the greats that, you know, the Guy Clarks, the Billy Joe Shavers, those guys, and then it just ups my respect for those that are out there doing this thing and how hard it actually is, not only to write songs, but then to get them out into other people's ears and then to make money from it. Mm-hmm. It's such a hard road.
Man, I'll tell you something that I was thinking about the other day. I'm sure I'm not the first person that's ever had this thought, but this is one of the only positions to where if you came up to me and you told me, I'm from Weatherford, Texas, right? Decent sized town now. It used to be a lot smaller. If you came up and told me you were the biggest bank, you ran the biggest bank in Weatherford, Texas, everybody would be like, oh, yeah. Or Fort Worth. If you came up and told somebody, oh, I'm the #1 songwriter in Weatherford, Texas, they don't give a damn. You got to literally be the best in the world before people consider you a success. Mm. So you have to find those validations inside of yourself, you know, is why you're doing this. And it's just a weird profession because, like, unless you are a Sturgill Simpson or a Coulter Wall, a lot of people will just kind of be like, oh, he sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, they won't even listen to your stuff. I haven't heard of him. He sucks.
Yeah.
You know, he's not one of the best in the world. I mean, it's more competitive than the NBA. There's way more NBA players than there are hit singer-songwriters. Way more. It's the most competitive industry in the world. I truly believe that.
You mean there's more singers? I mean, misheard.
There's more people that are actively professional basketball players that are in the NBA, that are, you know, NBA players, than there are super successful singer-songwriters that are hot right now.
Right, I got
I
you.
believe that.
Yeah. We saw that when we went to Nashville. Like I said, we did some interviews there, and we went out to the basement and a few other places.
Yeah.
And man, everybody that walked up there was like, "Holy shit!"
Stout.
Yeah.
That's why I love going
Talent.
over there.
Yeah.
I love going over there. You know, I think a lot of times.
But people you've never heard of, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, you've
people
never
you've never
heard of
heard of, and they're just up there killing it.
Singing their butts off.
Yeah.
I mean, playing an incredible song that they wrote, and you see that around Texas too. I mean, but I think it's very easy to become complacent, and that's one of the issues that I see with the Texas music scene. You know, I have a lot of buddies who see that as the end-all, be-all, and I'm like, man, that's one state out of 50 states, and those 50 states are in one country out of 162. Mm-hmm. You know, so have bigger dreams for yourself. You know, we come from Texas. I mean, I'm Texas country by the fact of I'm country and I'm from Texas. I mean, if I ain't Texas country, who is? I don't know if the DJ calls it that, but you know, you get into such a little scene, like, you know, you can get into. There's a long time that I wanted to just be playing at all these bars in Fort Worth on certain nights, and I don't know, man. It's a big world out there, and there's so many talented people. And like you say, you go to Nashville, you see them all, and you're just like, dang, you know. And it's humbling. It's really humbling for me because, you know, I grew up around here, and I tried to always think, you know, I was in a little pond, and I thought I was a big fish, and then I started going up to Nashville, and I'm like, oh man, I ain't as big a fish as I thought I was. I'm going to have to work a lot harder. But yeah, that's been my experience with Nashville, and no matter what, you know, field you're in, there's that principle is true. You know, if you're a cutting horse trainer, you know, you're the bee's knees up in Bozeman, Montana. Yeah. But you come down to Weatherford, and you're like, oh, there's a whole nother echelon to this.
You can always level up.
Always. Even if you're the best that ever did it, you can always get better.
100%.
Yeah.
We're gonna roll into some rapid fire, but before I do that, what's next? So what's next for Garrett Bradford?
Man, so I've got this new album coming out. I'm super excited about. I think it's absolutely the best project that I've ever done. There's a lot of songs on this record that I've been saving for the right moment, and I thought this was the right moment. As soon as that album drops, which will be this fall, I'm thinking sometime I'll probably release the first single around the middle of October. And I'll put out 3 singles, maybe 4, and release the whole album, depending on how the singles perform. And then after that, I plan on doing a lot of stuff like This Way of Life, that song that I recorded in my barn. I'm already working on that. I have my next 3 projects planned out. One of them is the record I just told you about. The next one is another thing that I don't want to, you know, pigeonhole myself, because it may metamorphosize into something else that I'm not. That's not even a word, metamorphosize.
It is now.
Metamorphosize this thing into something that no, but it may change into something that I don't even think it's going to be. But I think the new album, I think people are really going to like. If you like my music, and if you don't, that's fine too. As long as you like me. And then after that, I want to do a whole acoustic project of just that kind of stuff. I mean, some real gritty stuff. And then I'd also like to do, you know, we're mentioning, I found that binder with all the songs that I wrote in the Clank, and I'd like to do a record of those too. And they're not all about that. They're about all kinds of things, but that was just such a powerful time in my life. So just expect, you know, me to keep writing a bunch of songs, and if you like them, I'll keep writing them, and you can keep listening to them.
Right on, brother. I look forward to seeing what you come out with.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
We'll roll into this. This segment is brought to you by Ghostwood Distilling Company, and it'll be some light questions here. We'll just kind of roll through them. So, what is the best investment you made in the last 6 months under $100?
It was $99.99, a Shure SM58 microphone singing to on stage because that's how I make my living.
Right on.
Yeah. Well, I guess after tax, it might have been a little over 100.
We'll let it slide.
Let it slide.
Favorite Western movie?
True Grit.
Ah, right on.
The John Wayne version.
Okay.
Yeah, the John Wayne version.
Last thing you Googled?
How to get Schaefer Outfitters.
What is the screensaver on your phone?
I'll show it. Let's see here. That's I gotta show it. That's me and my dad. My dad passed away 3 months ago from cancer. Milt Bradford, he's my hero. So that's me and my dad when I was a little boy. But before that, for the last year and a half, it had been the stock screensaver.
Stocks.
Like whatever. No, not
the
stocks.
regular.
Like whatever
I got
comes
you.
on it when you buy it. Yeah, I never changed it.
Sorry to hear about your dad.
Thank you.
Okay, let's say you can jump in a time machine. This is a knife fighter question, actually.
Oh,
say you can
God.
jump in a time machine. When and where do you go?
I would go to. I have fascination with Civil War history. I would go to the Civil War, and I would probably go somewhere where I didn't get killed. That way I could come back. Yeah, I would want to be on a hill watching the Battle of Shiloh or Antietam.
Yeah.
Yeah, far away from the gunfire.
I'm curious to know this from musicians. So do you listen to your own music while you're driving down the road?
Hell yeah, I listen to my own music all the time, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, I do. Anybody that says different, man, they're either lying or they're not turning out a good product because I write my own favorite songs. I tell people all the time, I'm like, dude, that's why I started writing music, man. I wrote these songs about my life, and do I think they're the best objectively? No. I mean, I know I'm not the best songwriter, but yeah, these songs, I love them because I know what they're about, you know what I mean? And I can really identify with them. So that's my answer on that.
Right on, man. Favorite guitar?
1983 Alvarez Yari. It's in the case over here. I got it. It's a Japanese-made guitar, man. It's the bee's knees. I love it.
Right on.
I have a Martin D28. I have about 17 guitars. I'm kind of a guitar collector. I have a problem. But that one over there in that case is the one. Yeah.
Right on.
Yes,
How long
sir.
have you had it?
I've had it since I was like 18 or 19. So from about the time that I wasn't playing it when Randy Travis asked me to play the guitar.
That was the next one.
It was sitting in the case just like that on the side of the stage while I was playing the song. Oh, it's terrible.
Most embarrassing moment on stage?
One time I left my zipper unzipped and I wasn't wearing underwear. I was going commando, but it was just a little bit unzipped. And this lady walked up and she goes, "Son, your zipper's unzipped and I don't think you're wearing underwear." That was pretty embarrassing.
Where was that at?
She seemed really disappointed. She was like, "Oh, geez." That was at, I don't even want to say where it was at. I don't even want to say because it's a place I still play and nobody knows this except, well, probably everybody that was there. But to this day, I think the only people that know are me and this lady that came up.
How
and told
many
me.
songs in?
Like 7 or 8. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Luckily, they didn't get much of a show. I'm sorry. If you were there and you saw something, I apologize, you know.
Right on, man. All right, my friend. Last question. Metaphorically speaking, if you could have a billboard to get a message out to millions of people, what does your message say?
Spend more time being the person that you want to be instead of trying to convince people that you're the person you want to be. And that goes for social media, all kinds of things. Spend more time becoming a great songwriter than trying to convince people you're a great songwriter. Because you don't have to do any convincing once you are. And I'm not saying that I am, but hopefully one day.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. What do you think about playing one?
Let's do it.
What you gonna play? That one?
Yeah, I figure I might as well, stick with it. You gotta stick with the hits, and I don't know if I even have one hit, but this is the closest thing I got to it. We good?
Yeah, brother.
All right. Never seems to fall on us. lights the haze up, and the future's burning down. And them old men at the feed store spitting snuff say it's never been this tough. They were me, they moved to town. They say there ain't no use in trying. They think our way of life is dying. Go ahead and carve the headstone, boys, and write your eulogy. And plan yourself a funeral, but don't be expecting me. 'Cause as long as I'm still breathing and my blood's flowing red, this way of life ain't dead. There's a whole lot more out there like me, north, south, and sea to sea. Thinking we'll all just fold and quit. You better quit thinking, 'cause you don't know shit. 100 years of roots run deep. Times have changed, but so will we. Feeding them 5 weights, slinging that rope. Can't quit now, Lord, it's all we know. Go ahead and carve the headstone, throw a farewell party too. But please don't be expecting us, 'cause we got work to do. Lord, as long as I'm still breathing and my blood's flowing red, this way of life ain't dead. Something like that. It's called This Way of Life.
Hell yeah. I dig it, man.
Appreciate it.
Good jam, brother.
Appreciate it,
Good
man.
jam. We'll definitely have to have you back on.
Man, I'd love to do it.
Go write a few number ones and.
I know, yeah, I'm gonna do that next week. Yeah, I would actually have that on the schedule. That's what I used to say. Synchronicity. I was gonna write 2 big hits next week, and we'll be back on.
Yeah, man.
No, thanks for having me on, man.
No,
This is so
I enjoyed
cool.
the hell
I'm a
out of
fan
it.
of the show. I'm a fan of the show. As soon as you had Matt and Paul on, I was like, I like this guy.
Sweet, man.
I mean, we won't even
That's
talk
what-
about the Last Night Fighter guy. You gotta watch that old boy.
All right, tell folks where they can find your music.
You can find it on Spotify, wherever you listen to music, on Spotify, Instagram, Google, OnlyFans. All of that stuff. You can find it wherever you want it. Look up Garrett Bradford with 2 R's and 2 T's. There's only one, and it's me. So check it out.
I love it.
All right.
Till
man.
next time.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.